Okay, it looks like we are live. Welcome everyone, as the wonderful Kate has just put onto the screen. Hey guys, hey Barry. For those of you who don't know who I am or who we are, my name's Deepak Shukla. I from time to time pop onto SEMrush to interview really interesting people. I've got the privilege, or Barry's got the privilege, we've got the privilege of being with each other today. Mr. Barry Schwartz is with us. I will be introducing him in a bit more depth in a couple of minutes from now. So for everybody who's just joining, please, hey Amon Johns and company, please do let us know where you're from, city, what you do for a living. No doubt something at least in the marketing or development space or otherwise. And if you've got, of course, any questions already, we'd love to get them in the comments. I will be coming to, as best as I can, all of your comments, as well as the long bucket list of questions that I've got for Barry, some which already began before we were off air. So hello, Jeannie, how you doing? I think we've also got Itamar, how you doing? Good to see you here back as well. We've got Raza, Raza from Istanbul, Turkey. Let us know what you do, Raza. We've got Rent Homes from Baltimore, Apt Rentals. Do let us know what your first name is, Rent Homes. I'm sure it's not Rent Homes, but good to see you. We've got Amy Taman from New Jersey Shore. Hey, Amy, how are you? We've got Refine IT Marketing from Utah. The people are pouring in. Kevin Corelli, what's up, sir? Philadelphia, nice. We've got our first lady from Bulgaria, Monica, who's in to join us. We're getting some smiles. Barry clearly knows some of these or many of these people. We've got Kelly. Let me see if I got that right. Kelly McClenahan. We've got Ammon Johns' company. That's a nice quote. I'm from Barry's murky past and youthful innocence. So Ammon Johns and company, please prepare your most in-depth and invasive questions, please. Our aim is to, ask, get if indeed such a thing is possible, to get Barry a little bit uncomfortable. But let's see. We've got Kenan from Sarajevo. I think that's the first time I've had someone from Sarajevo here on a call. Agrotizer. We've got Presley from Seattle. So guys, welcome. If you're just joining, we're here with Mr. Barry Schwartz. I'm going to give it another couple of minutes. We've been live for 2.5 minutes. We'll give it another 2.5 to allow you all to come in. Let us know where you're from. Let us know what you do. Please already start asking some questions. Put them in the comments. I'm going to do my best to get to all of your questions. Hey, Dan from, I think I lost it, from Atlanta. I think, there we go. Andy, we've got, you're in Georgia now. Now, is that Georgia? I'm guessing that's Georgia States, or is that Georgia, the country? Let us know. We've got Mr. or Miss Lucid Chart from Salt Lake. Hey, Rohit, let us know where you're from, Rohit. And we've got Ahabira. Now that's an awesome, Moha from Tangier, Morocco. Brilliant. So we've got a decent list of countries in here at the moment. We've got India, we've got the States, of course. We've got one Brit who's now actually in Georgia. We've got William from New York. And yeah, hey UK, hey Vicky, how you doing? Yes, that is I'm sure everyone's already guessed. I'm from the UK, London, and we've got David from Southeast London. David, let us know where in Southeast London, since you're getting specific. And if anyone, Barry, are you in New York at the moment?
Yes, I'm in New York.
Okay, brilliant. So if anyone's from New York,
William is.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, let us know if you don't already know Barry, let him know where you are in New York, so he can be sure to avoid that location immediately after the webinar. If you're like, Barry, I'm in Queens, come visit. We've got our first man from the Netherlands. Let us know where in the Netherlands, Martin. So, we've got South Africa, brilliant. And Jeannie has said, I think earlier, I don't think you can get Barry uncomfortable. You're probably right, Jeannie, but there's always fun in trying things, right? We've got Amanda from, I missed that, but Amanda from somewhere, we'll come back. We've got Cynthia. Where in Brazil are you from, Cynthia? So we've got a Brazilian in the UK, and we've got a Brit in Georgia. So everything's upside down at the moment. And I think we will give it 1 more minute. Oh, wow. Francesco from Fulham. So Francesco, I'm from Fulham as well. So technically we should be within less than a mile of each other. If you're feeling brave, let me know how close to the station you are, and I'll be able to kind of figure out where I should avoid. But good to see you, Francesco. So everybody, we're going to give it literally 1 more minute. And once I think that everybody's settled and ready, steady, Eddie. Is that an expression, by the way, in the States? Ready, steady, Eddie?
No, it's not. But you can keep saying it. It's fine. Just makes me feel uncomfortable.
I sense there was a bit of sarcasm there, guys. So we've got Nick from LA, and we've got Cynthia's from Porto Alegre.
It's great to see so many people that I know and do not know, but most people I know most of you guys. So
okay, all right, awesome. Well, so with that in mind, guys, you please do put in the comments questions that you've got. We've got Luciano from Argentina. Francesco's from West Brompton, which is next to Fulham. So I've got that. So anyway, everybody, welcome. We're with Mr. Barry Schwartz, who is the CEO of Rusty Brick. Let me rephrase. Barry is a man who's been around on God's given green earth since 1980, as per his Wikipedia. So first of all, I'm going to say happy 40th Earth Day, Barry. How are you feeling about turning 40?
How do I feel? You're trying to say I'm old or something?
I'm trying to say that you're 40. You're the one who's saying you're old.
Okay. No, I feel fine. I think SEO has aged me a lot. So
yeah.
But
did it feel any different? I mean, when did you turn 40 specifically? Let me just check the Wikipedia.
Just around the time they did the lockdown in New York. Right after the lockdown, they're like, Barry turns 40, no parties, no nothing, which is good actually, because I think they were planning something for me, like my wife and family, and a bigger community, and I'm like, sorry, not happening now. So.
And did it feel any? So I'm 34. And I wonder, does it feel any different? Like people talk about 40 as being an age of something.
Of what? Could you be specific?
Yeah, sure. So people talk about turning 40. They talk about it in many ways. 40 is the new 30. They talk about 40 being a stage in a man's life where maybe you figured out kind of who you are, what you want from life, the path you're on, and those kinds of things. Did any of those thoughts kind of go through your mind, or was it?
This interview is going very deep. It's 40. No, I turned 40. That was about it.
Okay.
Do I feel any different? I don't really feel different. Do I know myself better? No, I don't know. These are two philosophical questions for me. Okay. Yeah, I'm older, so.
No, absolutely. And now that you've been in the industry, let's say the digital industry for decades, when you look back on it, are you surprised by how much has changed, or do you feel that, you know what, looking back on it since I started, we were talking about, for example, one of the first speeches that you gave back in 2005, right, at PubCon. I don't know if it was one of the first speeches, but it's been, we're 2020 now. If you were to look back, perhaps that's a better question. If you were to look back, do you feel a lot has changed, or do you feel that, you know what, actually not too much has changed?
Yeah, I mean, so yes and no. I mean, that's the only really way to answer that question. A lot has changed in terms of where people were back then versus where people are now. I mean, SEO is still, the search engines still have the same goal, I guess. They still want to rank the best content, but how they do that has changed over the years. Meaning, back in 2005, it was like just generating a lot of links to a lot of bad content, and you can rank for anything you want to. Very easy to make a lot of money very quickly. And now you kind of have to do things the right way. But the ultimate goal back then was still the same thing. Search engines wanted to rank the best stuff on the internet, the highest. The way they did that was just less sophisticated. People have come, people have gone, people have, worked at Google, left Google, people have worked as an SEO, joined Google. Danny Sullivan is now working for Google. Did I ever expect that to happen? Working with him for so many years? No.
Yeah.
Will I ever work for Google and sell out like he did? No, I'm joking. But yeah, things have changed, but at the same time, the ultimate goal has not. SEOs still try to do the same thing, make
Yeah.
their client's website the best possible so that they could rank as high as possible in Google.
Okay. Okay. And talking, I mean, one of the interesting things we just spoke of, like before we came, we kind of went on air. Now, Rusty Brick, your clients know you as the man who will do anything that's software led, and then they, from time to time, probably not having any idea, maybe, or maybe some idea that Barry knows a little bit about SEO, they maybe bring on an SEO team. How do those conversations go when they present to you an SEO proposal, or over the years, maybe you've got on a call where they want to introduce you to the SEO partner that they're either looking at picking or working with?
Right. No,
Yeah.
it's a good question. I mean, so like Rusty Brick, really, we don't. That's the one difference I have is from other people who write about SEO is that I don't offer SEO services because I don't want it to bias what I write, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. At the same time, we have clients, we build software. A lot of those software applications are web-based or mobile-based or both. And a lot of them have front-facing websites that are associated with it.
Yeah.
So often our clients trust us and they'll probably get us on the phone. I hired this SEO company, yada, yada. Could you get on the phone? Sure, no problem. And I get on the phone and I speak to them. Most of the time, they have no idea who I am, which is great.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to the client and say, this advice is good, this advice is bad, based on knowing what I know, and then move on. So most of the time, it's not so awkward. But then the client sometimes asks, well, why isn't their plan good? They're charging me almost nothing and they promise the best things in the world. I'm gonna go try it out. I'm like, if you try it out and they're promising you everything for nothing, obviously that just sounds too good. And I can tell you this is not gonna work. And then I have to go ahead and explain my credentials and how long I've been, writing about SEO and talking about SEO and so forth. So it could get a little bit weird, but at the same time, I like to help people before they make big mistakes. So,
Well, you're someone who is very good at the making someone feel uncomfortable because you're so straight. I would love for you, and I think who was asking it? Someone said that, and I wanted to ask it anyway. Andy Simpson, you were literally saying laughs out. Could you bring this up on screen, Kate, if it's possible? Where he says laughs out loud. Can you imagine that call? So I would invite you to tell us a little bit about one of the more awkward calls you've had where you have been pitched something that goes against perhaps some of the things that you know. This is and back in the day, a call like that might have looked like this.
yeah, look at those CRTs. I don't know about a specific client because usually when you're on the phone with a client and their SEO company, they're all acting professional, and I'm not going to go ahead and like throw them under the bus on the phone. I'll be like, thank you for this input, and then I'll go directly back to the client and not get into that fight with the SEO company because it's just not worth it. It's not. But I'll get off like everybody else on this probably thing. We'll get phone calls or emails from SEOs trying to sell everything. And then I remember a phone call from an SEO company that says, all right, open up Google, type in our company name, click on it, and then there's a search box on our website. Do a search in there, and look how high we rank. I'm like, okay. And then usually I'll just hang up, but sometimes they just egg you on. So I haven't done this in a long time, but I basically, I'm gonna be like, could you just Google my name? I mean, see what you find, stuff like that. I mean, because then this old professor who wrote a book about paradox of choice comes up, and not me. So that's always interesting. But I also have this guy Lenny. I don't know if you see my thing about Lenny. It's basically I could forward you to basically it's part of like something called free PBX. It's part of your PBX system, and you could forward the spam caller to a kind of like a robot that acts like a real person. It's like an old man on the phone that barely could hear you, and he just keeps you on the phone for probably a good 20 minutes. And it keeps the spammers that call you on the phone wasting their time talking to like a robot about trying to sell you something. I used to post these Lenny audio files on my website just so people can listen to these funny, hilarious calls with spammer trying to sell Lenny something, and he's just a robot. So he just keeps the guy on the phone for a while. There's ducks in the background and stuff
Is
like
that
that.
where you sent the Barryville phone calls that you got? I noticed on LinkedIn you were saying that how impressive have these spam callers got that they were calling you from Barryville.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I mean, the spam calls on your cell phone are just insane, but the office calls I'm easily. Yeah, it's fun. You should just do a search for like Lenny PBX or something. You'll find some of the funniest threads on audio files of people just wasting people's time with spam calls.
And and that's I still found that fascinating. I mean, what has kept you from the temptation of immediately, expanding into offering SEO services, right? Because you could do it and you could probably double your billing pretty easily by virtue of your reputation. And
you
then
really
there's
want
all
me
of
to
that.
answer that?
I'd love an answer to understand more about that space. I'm not the first guy who's come along. I'm one in of 100 said, Barry, just do it. Or a client said, Barry, we'll pay you whatever it is, $10,000. And you're like, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I do offer very rarely, maybe like 1 hour every few months, like an SEO consultation for an SEO for SEOs. Like if you're part of a Fortune 500 company and you have like 10 SEOs and they want to ask a bunch of questions, I'll do that on an hourly basis. I rarely do that, but I do it. I just don't like to, when it comes to offering web development services or software development services and mobile apps, there's a spec. You build this, you deliver it. With SEO, there's no real, I mean, you could say I'm going to offer you content development and link building and social media, and you can't really what they really are hiring an SEO for is they want more visibility in search. They want to rank in a certain position. At least in the old days, it was like you want to rank in position 1 or 2. And I can't guarantee those deliverables. That's one reason that I won't offer it, because I just can't guarantee those deliverables. The most important deliverable of ranking in a certain spot or getting a certain amount of traffic. Now, a lot of SEOs don't sell it that way, and I like to, build customers for what we could deliver. That being said, the main reason is thank God we do well on the software development side. I like to be able to write things without having to worry about, will this affect my business? I can't tell you how many times I've seen SEOs write about certain things that they're clearly writing about it just to go ahead and improve their business or to say what Google said is not true. I mean, one of the biggest examples that I see all the time is guest blog posts. Some company offers, maybe not as often today, but maybe like 5-10 years ago, people are like, well, Google said guest blog posts are not acceptable, but they don't mean these types of guest blog posts. My guest blog posts are fine, but those are the bad ones. That's what Google really means. And I don't have that bias or conflict of interest when I'm writing about this type of stuff.
And then when, for example, in the case of, for example, Rusty Brick, you clearly notice that one of your clients, because you're doing ongoing development work, has taken on SEO services because you're seeing some changes perhaps in the CMS, or maybe you've looked them up on Semrush or someone, there's never a temptation to have that conversation. You just kind of stay out of it, even at a company level.
No, I mean, most of these companies are all, it's not like I'm not selling it to them. I'm just saying what they're suggesting is correct. You should, make sure your content's great. You should make sure your title tags are relevant to the page that it's on. You should make sure you have schema on those pages. I mean, these are all things that will improve the website. It's all built into the CMSs they're using anyway. So why not have somebody who's offering those services do it? I definitely agree. SEOs are very valuable. I just have a hard time selling it for that reason, because I can't, like, a Google update could happen and then the site could be just wiped out, wipe off the planet. There's lots of false negatives, false positives, and stuff like that around Google's algorithms, and I can't necessarily control those deliverables. I know a lot of SEO companies do a great job of managing customer expectations and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we're very happy to work with SEO companies, although I really don't build many front-end websites that rely on Google traffic. So doesn't come up that often. It's mostly back-end software.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And talking of important conversations, I asked you about how did it turn to turn 40. You said, Deepak, it felt fine. Let's move on. And you shut me down quite quickly. I want to talk about another significant thing, which was significant. You and Kate, I believe you have the picture, recently, as of maybe 2 weeks ago now, it might have been a bit longer, officially wrote your 30,000 And I wasn't sure if that was a typo, but you wrote your 30,000th post.
So technically that's incorrect, just to make you feel a little bit awkward. It's the ID number of the system in the database of how many blog posts are in the Search Engine Roundtable blog.
Okay.
So that's the ID number. I've written over 30,000 articles on search, if you count Search Engine Roundtable, Search Engine Land.
Yeah.
I used to write back in the day when Danny Sullivan was at Search Engine Watch. So I've probably written, if I had to guess, 40,000 articles, all thin, low quality content stuff over the years. But yeah, it's a lot. I type fast and I type short, just like I speak short. I like to get to the point and not.
Do you consider yourself a writer? I mean, that's no. I mean, you don't. I mean,
if you told my teachers in college or university that I would be writing and people would be reading what I'm writing, no. I consider what I write to be a hobby. And my people at Search Engine Land, Danny Sullivan, always hated when I said I'm not a writer or I'm not a journalist. I just consider myself a hobby blogger. He used to hate when I used to say that. That's the truth. I don't make my money really writing about. It's a hobby. It's really people like to go fishing. People like to do whatever. Like I enjoy writing about search engines and SEO.
But I mean, has that changed as your written contribution has helped to build Barry Schwartz? Because I'm just curious, because I mean, writing is central in many ways, or has become, even if accidentally, to the growth of your brand. And was there ever a point where you are like, well, you know what, I'm kind of a bit bored of writing, but God, it's so helpful to everything I do, I want to continue?
So it's interesting. I don't really, I can maybe count on my hands over the past, almost 20 years of writing, how many clients I got from writing. Because again, we don't offer SEO services. We do software development. So just so you know, we built the original TextLink ads software for Patrick Gavin. We built their software to automate the buying and selling and placement of TextLink ads when it was a business back in the early days. We didn't do SEO for them. We just built their software. So that's one client I got. And there's very few clients that I've ever, maybe 5 over the course of 20 years that I got from writing about search. I do it early in the mornings, usually between the hours of around 6 a.m. to about 8 a.m., sometimes 8:30 a.m. And that's usually what I spend my time writing about search. And I just love writing about search because I love how it's changing so fast. So it might help with my personal brand. My personal brand's not getting me, the search stuff is not really paying my tuition bills or, putting food on the table. Thank God, again, we have a good business and so forth. But I don't know if that's a good answer.
I think it's a great answer. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, to for someone who's written, it's quite counterintuitive for someone who's written 40,000 posts over a course of, I mean, when was your first ever post published online in general that you would include within that?
December 2003 is when Search Engine Roundtable launched.
Okay, so December 2003, first blog post, and as you said, your overall contribution is past 40,000. Let's talk a little bit about your ordinary day then, and also kind of with a reflection as to where writing fits in. Now you mentioned the 6 to 8:30 thing, but was that the same in December 2003, or has it changed quite dramatically as your life has changed with marriage and family and business?
I guess the schedule has changed. I've always been what you call, I guess, a workaholic. I enjoy working. I work crazy hours. I guess a lot of people do, although these days people kind of like say it's not a good thing, meaning they look down on people working too much. I don't know. I believe that you could work hard, but you need a lot of luck also to do well. I don't think working hard is enough. I don't think being smart or even having good connections is enough. I think a lot of it is luck. And I've been very, very fortunate and lucky over my career to be able to financially be able to support stuff and do things that, like, for my family and for my company. So I've been lucky in that sense, and I feel very privileged in that area. And I think a lot of it's luck, and people who know me say, don't put yourself down. I'm not even before we were talking and people were like, oh, I'm like, why would people want to listen to this conversation about me? I don't understand
I found it
why.
odd as well, personally. So.
Yeah. So yeah, but my schedule, yeah, of course it has changed over the years. Obviously before I had a blog, I do find the blog to be a responsibility. I think people expect it, and I'm very, very passionate about being consistent, about being a certain level of respect for people and responsibility. And if people expect something from me, I kind of want to live up to that. So I do find that in terms of the blog is not just a hobby, but it's also something that I love doing, but it's also, I feel there is a sense of responsibility for what I'm doing. A lot of people have come and gone in the industry since then, started things and left. I'm the type of person that starts things and never gives it up, even if it's not doing well. So I never remove things from my list. So it just gets more and more busy.
How much of your journey would you then say has been kind of intentional versus, I don't know if accidental is the right word, but you wrote for the sake of writing is what it sounds like, and it's something that you love. Has the other outcomes of your life been similar? Did you see the blog developing as it did? Did you see Rusty Brick developing as it did, or was it, I enjoy this and I find this interesting, let's just see where it goes?
Yeah, I think most of the things that I've done at least wasn't necessarily intentional. Like, did I ever think that me covering, it was basically my notebook. Search Engine Roundtable was like a notebook of what's going on in the SEO forums. Now it's also social media because the SEO forums it's all one big forum. So it's basically a notebook of what's going on in this community. It's very interesting, and I wanted to write it so I could remember it. So that kind of took off by itself. Rusty Brick, we started building out, it was basically building out like a small, in 1994, building out websites for the local Chinese store. And then it was like, all right, could you build this? Could you then build that? We got hired to build a calendar application for a kind of like a doctor type of office. And then it turned out to be like patient scheduling, patient billing, doctor scheduling based on their sleep patterns. So things just kind of go from there. I built software for the Jewish world because I thought it would be useful, and it turned out to be some of that software turned out to be really, really successful. So I didn't think most of this stuff would do so well. Not everything does well. Like I built a budget application for bloggers to keep track of what they want to write about. Didn't take on. I built SEO ranking software so you could track your rankings back in 2004 or something, where I thought it would be useful for SEOs to be able to keep track of their rankings using the Google Search API. They had an API for tracking rankings back in the day, which you can't get anymore. They removed the API for, now it's the Google Search Console API they have, but didn't have a search API. They used to have a search API. And then I released that, charged for it. Google sued me because I used the name Google, so I removed the name Google. And then Digital Point, Sean, who I was very friendly with back in the day, he built a free version. So there goes that business model. So some things work, some things don't. I just generally like to build things that I find to be useful for other people, for me, and then hopefully it's useful for other people. And some of those things take off and some of them don't. But it's not like I'm looking to do it to necessarily make a lot of money. I'm just doing it because I find it to be useful.
How do you make a determination with projects that you should take on then and projects that you shouldn't, in terms of stuff you either see as being a Rusty Brick entrepreneurial project versus a regular kind of project that you bill for as a client? What's kind of the mix there?
Yeah, I mean, so clients come to us and they want something built, and we give them a proposal and they say, okay, we'll do it usually. When it comes to our own internal projects, it has to be something that myself or my partner find useful. And then we have to find time to do it. One project we started, I don't know, a certain year, and we didn't really start developing until 10 years later. So I have a list of ideas and we build them out. Most of these ideas are small in terms of being very niche. Sometimes they turn into something bigger, but again, anything we find that we personally will find useful and helpful that hasn't been out there before, I guess.
And when you look back at your journey, you mentioned that you're someone who feels that you've been very fortunate, or you feel that fortune is a big factor of success. Could you give me some examples of how that has played out in your journey, where you feel, well, Deepak, specifically what I mean is this happened to me and I felt that that was lucky, because, you know, there feels like, you know, there's this great, I mean, there's this magnus opus that you have, right? Whether you like it or not, which is the 40,000 posts that you've written. That's online. That's an online benefit to you.
No, I never really, you know, thankfully my business has always done pretty well. I haven't had to, we never need to take loans or anything like that. There's one thing specifically that I really cannot talk about for legal reasons. I love to share the story. I guess I have to get approval from the company. But I really can't talk about it, but people say that was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of hard work, but it's also a lot about timing and luck. And yeah, so I really can't talk much about specifically what it was, but
okay. Well, what do you? I mean, looking at your career right now, what gets you excited currently when you think about kind of your, let's say, next 5 years? Is there something particular that kind of gets you out of bed in the morning, apart from, of course, writing?
No, nothing. So people, it's funny. I just don't get excited about much. I don't really show lots of emotion. That's why people make jokes about feeling awkward, because
how is it at the dinner table? How is it at the dinner table, right? We talked about your kids that from 5 to 11, and you've got your
they're in school, so I don't want to be next to them. You know, who knows what germs they have. No, but one example is like, you know, it happens a lot actually, where like a client, back when we used to meet our clients in person and like handshake before a deal, he's like, why aren't you more excited? You just got a big deal. I'm like, it's just me. I just don't act a certain way. I'm very happy that we got this deal and it's a business deal, but I don't really get excited about stuff. So I don't know. It's weird. It's just, you know, I take day by day.
It's and do you within Rusty Brick, is it in terms of kind of the structure, do you often come in at the stage where a deal's already been signed off, or one of your kind of sales team go, and then you kind of do the management call, or are you involved also? The reason I asked is because I'm fascinated by your straightness, and I imagine a client being like, hey man, I'm about to give you $50,000, and Barry's there like, cool, see you tomorrow. And they're like,
I'm just laughing from the comments. So, yeah, no, I don't know. I'm sorry, the comments are kind of distracting. What was the question again?
No, it's okay. Let's go to some of the comments, because I'm interested by the comments as well. So we're gonna start going through. The Ammon Johnson Company. Wait a few more years, Barry, and what will get you out of bed several times is your bladder, which is fantastic. So we're going to take some of the questions now, guys, which is fantastic. I'm just going to go in reverse order, in fact. So BB asks, have you had any coaches in life, in life or business?
No.
Okay, cool. That's fine. Let's go to the next question. Guys, if you've written a question, I'm going to, and it doesn't have a question mark, I might miss it. So Itamar asks, that's actually a really good question. What are your other hobbies apart from writing about search, or is writing about search the hobby that has lasted, of course, you know, decades? Is there anything else that stands alongside it?
No, that is my pretty much one hobby. When I was a kid, I loved playing sports. Basketball was one of my favorite sports. I like to watch some sports, but I don't watch sports or TV or do any entertainment. It's mostly just SEO.
And you know, one of the things that I find interesting within that is, how big do you think focus has played as part of your success? Because you've purposefully chosen to, for example, not offer SEO or other services as part of Rusty Brick. You've purposefully chosen to focus on this hobby, and not, as most of us do. Most of us, you know, you kind of start something, maybe even keep it up for like a year and a half, then you get bored, or then you switch, and there seems to be a huge level of consistency in what you do.
Yeah, I mean, consistency, I find consistency to be very important. Like, people know when I write, it's going to be, they'll find the blog post on the blog, usually between the hours of X and Y. They know what to expect. I think that's important. At the same time, like I said, a lot of people have done it and then got out of it because there's not much money to be made from it. And like I said, my other businesses support me financially. So I'm able to do my hobby and, provide this level of service to the community, even though I'm getting a lot out of it myself because I enjoy doing it. So it's a win-win situation for me and for the community.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And it's just extremely impressive. 40,000 is a number that is pretty unique. And do you ever write about things? Is there, for example, a Barry's journal or anything that you keep offline that?
So David Naylor, so some of you guys may have remember him, including Amon and others. He made a cartoon picture of me. So I'm like, all right. So then I made a blog called cartoonbarry.com, where I used to write about my personal stuff, which then changed to barryschwartz.org eventually, which I don't write out much about. When I got married, children, my wife asked me not to talk about personal stuff going forward much. So I stopped really talking about my personal life for the most part, especially when it involves my family. As you know, there's lots of trolls out there on the internet. Some people dislike people on the internet. So I try to keep the two separate, family versus that. So it was there. If you want to look at the history, I think it's all there. Probably a lot of the images are broken, but yeah.
I mean, talking of kind of trolls and that space of being in difficult situations, especially when you've got a public reputation such as yourself, could you is there a particular moment in your career that you describe as one of the most difficult kind of moments? Is there a particular thing that springs to mind when you think about, that was a really difficult period for me?
Yes. It's the same situation where there's a lot of success and I really can't talk about the specifics, but
let's focus on only things you can actually talk about.
I mean, that was the one thing. I mean, in general, like, I don't know. It's hard to say like what was necessarily difficult. My main sense of responsibility and what weighs on me is making sure that besides from my family, but all the employees that work for me and their families don't have to worry financially or could afford things and are healthy and happy and successful themselves. So that's what weighs on me the most, is making sure the people that I employ and their families are are happy and healthy and able to financially fit to do what they need to do. So that's the biggest thing that weighs on me. And are there times where that weighs on me more over the years? Yes. The one specific thing was I can't talk about, which was a very good thing for me and the company, but impacted some employees was a situation that I can't really talk about. But in general, every time I do payroll, I always like thank God I get to payroll, stuff like that. So those are the things that weigh on me, is making sure that the employees and their families are, happy and healthy and successful.
I mean, it must be a pretty amazing feeling, I imagine, when you, as you said, get to payroll and you're like, wow, I feel so thankful that I'm able to support people with their own kind of story and journey of growth and stuff. And are they the kind? It sounds like responsibility is a huge driver for you now. That's what is a big motivator. What has that? I mean, in the early days of Rusty Brick, or when the team, how big is the team that you've got now? I mean, I think it was like 25 that I read, but it might have changed.
Yeah, it's about 20 or so now, right?
Perfect. So what were the drivers, for example, when it was you and your brother?
What was the drive? It was just about making clients happy. That's still a huge driver. But over the years, I've learned that it's not just about making clients happy. It's also making sure your employees are happy, because like I always say in the company, happy employees make for happy clients. So it kind of goes with itself. Like if you have happy employees that are happy with their job and happy with what they do, and feel like they're secure in what they're doing and they're confident, they will produce much better results for your clients. And then that cycle just keeps repeating itself.
And how, interestingly enough, how in your opinion would your team describe you at a dinner table when they're like, oh, what's it like working with Barry? Because we see this guy on the podcast or the interviews. How How do you think that they describe you?
That's a good question. A lot of them don't even know much about the SEO side. Some do, of course. I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to say how people describe me. You should probably interview some of my employees or past employees and ask them what they think. But I think generally people, I don't know. I don't like to worry about them about what my responsibilities are for them. But I do hope they appreciate me being concerned about making them feel well and them being well financially. So I hope they appreciate that. I just don't want them to tell me they appreciate that. It's just, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. That's my responsibility. So I don't want them to like thank me for doing my job. Mm-hmm. Although I do appreciate them doing their job, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, of course. And
yeah, they're under NDA also. Yeah, so they really can talk about me as Amon said.
Yeah, Amon's got guys. Thank you for you've got rolling commentary basically for each and everything that's going on. What is it like working with family? I mean, how do you guys determine decisions and how has that been over the years? Was that something that was? I'd just love to understand more about how that's been.
So my brother and I were actually twin brothers. Some people know that, some people don't. So how is that working with him? So I'm always right, and he is always wrong, and that's the way it works. So it's that simple. No, it's very clear. We have very clear. He's more on the much more technical side, so he runs all the technical stuff. All the decisions around technical, how to build stuff, what technologies to use, all the AWS infrastructure stuff. And I'm more making decisions on the business side. All the things around client billing and projects and estimates and how to handle certain client situations. That's really my decision. So sometimes he'll ask me, what do I think about this technology stack? I'll be like, I don't know, you decide. Whereas he'll ask me, what do you think we should do about this client billing situation? And I'll tell him. So we have a good separation of business roles, which makes it easier to work. And of course, when it overlaps, I'm always right. He's always wrong.
Is it sometimes challenging bringing work home when you've got a brother that you're in business with? How has that been, kind of the management of the different domains, when you're at the table with your kids and stuff?
Oh, my kids know now that I'm working from home. I used to literally be in the office for probably like 12 hours a day. My office is like 10 minutes, 15 minutes away. And then I used to literally come home, open my laptop, and work from my room over there. Say goodnight to the kids before they go to sleep, and that's it. Now that I'm home, I see them more often, but probably, I'm sorry, probably work a little bit more because of it. So yeah, I mean, there's no real work-life separation in my life, except for, as you can see, I'm Jewish and I'm observant Jewish, and I'm offline for Saturdays, the Shabbat, and I'm also offline for Jewish holidays. So that's like, I'm completely offline. I can't turn on a computer, can't check emails. Sometimes when there's Jewish holidays and it lasts like 2 or 3 days straight, I'm like shaking from not being able to check email or RSS feeds and stuff like that, making sure the servers are up and stuff like that. But over the years, I've learned to get better at that. I used to actually get sick on holidays from internet withdrawal, but now I'm actually much better at handling that. And it's good to have the one-on-one time without internet distractions and business distractions and the family.
Is that how you now separate it, that when it's Shabbat and it's Saturdays, you're like, now's the time I really connect?
I don't have a choice. If I do anything that's business related, turn on a computer, turn on something, I hit by struck by lightning. So I don't want to get struck by lightning. So
yeah. and you said that that's pretty interesting. You said that I actually used to get sick. Like, was there a time there where you said to yourself, okay, I need to get on top of this because actually I'm not regulating it at all?
No. It was good. I'm like, oh, I'll get sick on holidays and I can just sleep it off. I'm not missing work anyway. So it's a good time to get sick, instead of getting sick during work when I would just work through this, the flus and stuff. But no, I'm not the person you want to look at in terms of work-life balance and stuff like that.
I think that one of the biggest things that you do, and on average, is it still the case that on average you're writing about an hour and a half a day to 2 hours, or there's that block that you have in the mornings where you're devoted to writing? Because it actually sounds like a significant amount of your your life today, your adult life certainly has been spent doing something that you love. I mean, writing is a passion of yours, right? So
Yes.
when we remove that from the equation, is it still 12-hour days? I mean, because, you know, other people would be playing soccer or at the gym or watching a Netflix, you know, watching something on Netflix. Is it when you subtract that, is it actually, you know, I'm doing like 9 to 6 in terms of Rusty Brick?
Yeah, I'd still say it's, you know, I don't know. It's hard to say because everything's so mixed in with this working from home thing. I don't really watch much TV.
I'm going to ask actually about your TV habits. What's the last thing that you watched that you enjoyed that wasn't a documentary, that was like a movie?
So everybody was watching Games of Thrones and tweeting GIFs on stuff. One thing people make fun of me is like I post a lot of GIFs on Twitter where I haven't watched that movie or I haven't seen that TV show. And I'm posting it. I don't know what I'm talking about. So everyone's like posting these Game of Thrones GIFs and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I should watch it. So I kind of like watched that for a period of time, but that hasn't been on for what, a year or two now?
Yeah.
I got to find something.
How far did you get through it though? I mean, watching that is
I got through it all. I'm very consistent. I'm very, when I do something, I like to like get through it.
So what's Barry's like top 5 like TV shows that you're like, you know, these are the top shows that I've loved?
Good question. I don't watch much, but I guess
You watch some, it
Big
sounds
Bang
like.
Theory.
Okay, yeah.
I was back in the day Seinfeld. I like that a long time ago. That's about it. That's all that comes to mind. I'm really bad at the entertainment stuff. I apologize.
What was the most recent thing that you watched then, even if it was a one-off episode? Was it Game of Thrones?
Yeah, probably Big Bang Theory.
Okay. And okay. So when, for example, you take your occasional moments to kind of wind down outside of work, is it like, what is that? What does that period entail? Is it 20 minutes of
sleeping? I'll go to sleep.
Yeah.
I like to, no, I don't, what do I wind down doing? So since COVID, I actually started to exercise a bit on elliptical. So I do the elliptical for about a half hour. I trim some weight, if you can't tell really, but I'm pretty heavy and it's not healthy. So work and eating and not being healthy is not a good thing. So, you know, it looks like my neighbor's putting up a Trump sign.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Some real-time coverage here.
I was going to ask you to flip the camera, but then I thought, I don't know if you're going to get spotted immediately.
Yeah, he put it on sideways. I saw him walking with it, and then he just put it in the grass, just to let you know what's going on in my life right now.
Absolutely. And so, how was you know, kind of growing up, was discipline and focus a big part of your upbringing? You know, there's some core things here. There's a focus upon work. There's small talk is relatively quite functional. There's a consistency about you that I would, if I say I'll do something, I'll do it. And there's also a kind of a big sense of straightforwardness. What you see is what you get, and I'm not afraid to tell you what I think. I'm not going to be rude, but I will tell you what I think about things. And there's also an avoidance of, as you said, conflict, where I'm not going to, you know, dump on a guy if I'm on a call with him and I think that what he's saying isn't quite right. I'll just wait, come off the call, and go back to, you know, the company. How much of that do you attribute to kind of your upbringing, or where do you think that comes from?
Yeah, so I think a lot of my upbringing is about working hard. My mother had 2 jobs, always teacher and working in an orthodontist office. She always worked 2 jobs, or almost always worked her 2 jobs. My father worked crazy hours, although he tells me not to work so much. So I think there's a lot of that there in terms of working hard.
There's like a kind of a positive stereotype about Jewish people working quite. Is that a cultural thing? Is it no, Deepak? That was just Barry's family thing. Is that quite common amongst?
No, I don't know if it's. I mean, I see people these days, especially in my community, sometimes that don't work as hard, and it upsets me. I'm like, you have to work hard, but you know, I try not to get upset by other people when not working hard. So I don't think it's necessarily a Jewish thing. I don't know. I thought it was more of an Asian thing. I could be wrong. I thought Asians always work so hard. I went to Baruch College, a city college in New York City, and it was pretty much just hardworking Asians there. And I like that.
Well, this side of the pond, it was the same. I remember because I was a security assistant at our overnight library, and overnight there would always be basically Asian students, like specifically Chinese students, who would sit through the night and like work, and it was a really incredible thing to see. So I can tell you it's the same on this side of the pond. I mean, we're coming into the last 10 minutes of our webinar, and guys, I'm going to take the last kind of 4 or 5 minutes, probably more, to go through some of your questions that you've got. So keep them coming in. I want to ask a bit of, looking back on things, what advice would you give to 20-year-old Barry as you look back on stuff? You know, maybe something that.
That's a good question. What would I give advice to? I guess, I think, I don't know, maybe have more confidence, although I have a lot of confidence now. Not really confidence, more about, I don't care as much what people say. I think that's what happens when you write a lot online. People say a lot of really bad things over the years, and everything just kind of like doesn't mean much anymore. It's like all that feedback kind of just like doesn't mean anything really going forward. So I'm not sure if I have confidence or not, or more if I'm just numb to everything on the internet now. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting because some people are concerned. I see a lot of people that are concerned about how they dress and how they appear and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm not really that into that, and I don't know if it matters or not. I wonder if I like dress better or got a better haircut or something, would that actually improve my success in the world? And then people are looking at me saying that you're very successful. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I would give I don't have the answers, and I don't think people always have the answers. And I think a lot of people who have success think they have the answers, and they really don't. And I don't think anybody should be overly confident. At the same time, you should trust your gut and just go with what you think is right, and not worry too much about other people.
What do you think you'll say to your kids, if anything, as they get older? And I think they should work hard. I think working hard is the fundamentals you need to do. I don't think often things are just handed to people. I think you really need to work hard. Of course, that doesn't mean guarantee success. I think luck is very, very important, and who you're connected with is also very, very important. But I think working hard is the fundamental thing I want to teach my children. Although I don't know if that's going to necessarily happen. I would like to do that. I think we'll see. I mean, we'll see. My children are very young in general, so it's too early for that. My oldest is 11, which is probably at the age of, I think you want to like kind of convey that. And I think they see from example. I'm always about lead by example in my company. I'm always about lead by example at home. I'm always the first one in the office. When we went to the office, I'm always the first one on Slack. So I always want to lead by example, just because I think if you do something and you ask something from your employees or you ask something from your children, they should say, oh, okay, he's doing that, I should also do it, not just because he's telling me to do it, because he's actually doing it. What's the number one quality that you'll look for in a person then? Is it that when you make hiring decisions or partnership decisions?
That's a good question. Yeah. So for me, when hiring somebody, it's more about, do they fit in the company culture? In my company, nobody is a know-it-all. Nobody, especially when it comes to programmers in general. A lot of programmers think they know everything. And I want to hire people that know they don't know everything, and they want to learn. They want to, learn from others. They want to work in a team environment. And they want to make sure that it's not like, what are my hours, 9 to 5. I don't want people asking what are my hours, because I don't care what your hours are. You can work, a few hours a day, as long as you get the projects done. That's all that matters to me. So I just want for me, it's about company culture, and a lot of that has to do with my attitude towards stuff. So I think company culture is more important than actual skills per se.
You've got a lot of humility. Is that, I mean, someone was saying in here, Barry, do you have imposter syndrome? And what I find quite striking about the people that I meet who have seen success at whatever level that it's externally considered. I speak to that person, and there's this great sense of kind of humility about yourself. Is that something that you kind of see, that you know what, I don't feel that, I feel that I'm fortunate. You talk about fortune, you talk about luck, you talk about working hard. You've actually not talked about success once.
So I'm not blind. I know I am extremely successful. I know both in terms of personal life, family, financially. I'm like, I can't be more successful than I am. I can't ask for anything more. I'm not going to lie about that. I have everything I need. I can afford anything I possibly could dream of. So I know that. At the same time, I don't think I personally did something more than maybe somebody across the street have done to earn all that. I work very, very hard. I understand that. But at the same time, a lot of people work hard. A lot of people have tried things and they were not successful in terms of success, in terms of financial success, or having the perfect family, the perfect marriage, and so forth. I'm so lucky in all those areas. And I don't want to say something that where I look back at it and be like, I messed up here or there. So I think things can go away like that. You see the stock market, COVID, plagues, things, can't take things for granted. And there's a lot of successful people out there that have the perfect marriage, that have the perfect family, that have the perfect financial status, right? And they could lose it all in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
So we all do what we could do, and I don't want to take anything for granted, and just keep working hard. And I do that even today. So I don't necessarily have to work as hard as I do, but I think it's like I'll keep doing it for as long as I physically can. So.
Well, yeah, I think it's really compelling to hear about your straightforwardness and how you think about things. And I know we've only got 4 minutes, which is annoying. So, guys, we're going to finish up with some of the questions that, if any, that we've got here. Okay, we'll storm through them. BB asks, what book are you reading at the moment, Barry? If anything.
I just finished. What's the name of the book? The guy who invented Stripe.
Oh,
jeez.
I'm googling it also because I don't know the name of the book.
Square. Jim McAlevey.
The Innovation Stack, is it? Jim
Yes, the Innovation
McKelvey?
Stack. Yes,
Okay,
I got that book as a present, and it was really good. So, and I also love the Steve Jobs books.
If someone was, if you were to recommend one book,
I don't know. Depends on the person. I don't know.
Sure. One entrepreneurial book.
I like the Innovation Stack because, yeah, I relate mostly to that story, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, guys, Innovation Stack, check it out. What's your favorite music artist or band?
I like Neil Young.
Really?
Yeah. I have a friend that his father was really, really into him. Yeah. And growing up, all they did was listen to that, and it kind of stuck with me.
Okay. Amazing. Ammon Johns and Company, this is a past question. He's asking, what parts of search engine, what do you have most nostalgia for within the search engine community, that something that you miss? Is there something that you do miss that springs to mind?
I do miss Matt Cutts. I do miss a lot of the old personalities in the community that are kind of we don't have those small get together things that we used to have in the past. I kind of miss that. It's a much bigger industry now. At the same time, there's a lot of new personalities out there, and it's a lot of great opportunities for new people to come up and make a big name for themselves.
Are you excited by what's the future of search?
Looking forward to the future of search, specifically around voice search, image search, and all the stuff around like the intent behind search. I'm looking forward to how it's going to change in the next 5 years.
Okay, amazing. And my final question, Mr. Barry Schwartz, is if there was one thing that you would change about the SEO community, what would it be?
I just wish, at least when you look at Twitter and social media, that people didn't make certain assumptions about certain people. Not me. You can make whatever assumptions you want about me. I couldn't care less. But certain people take things very hard, and calling people out for things, assuming certain things. It's usually not the case. What you see on Twitter, what you see on social media is usually not 100% the whole story. And don't make assumptions about what people write, how they write it, what they share, client data they share. A lot of people are really trying to help a lot of people, and just give people the benefit of the doubt.
Barry, Mr. Barry Schwartz, thank you so much. Guys, we have, well, guys and girls and ladies and men, we've reached the hour mark with Mr. Barry Schwartz. I do wish that we had more time, but Barry, I want to say thank you for taking on all of my questions. Really, really appreciated it.
No, thank you. This is it was one of the better interviews, so thank you.
Touch wood. Is there somewhere where you actually respond if people want to ask you kind of this type of stuff? Is there a place or not really?
Yeah, I'm very active on Twitter, so my Twitter handle is @rustybrick. You can contact me at rustybrick.com as well, and make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, wherever that button is. I think somebody commented there. Trying to get more subscribers.
Absolutely. So guys, thank you so much as well for being an amazing audience. Please do subscribe to anything that Barry has, both paid or unpaid, but preferably paid. Cut me in, that'd be fantastic. But yeah,
I don't think I have anything paid, so.
Okay. Well, I will work on fixing that with Barry post-interview. But everybody, thank you so much. Thank you, SEM Rush, and it's been a pleasure. Cheers, Barry.
Thank you.